And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Karla when she's finished taking photographs. Karla Saldana Ochoa. She's going to be hosting our first panel, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I hope you can all see me. I'm short and I have a laptop and this is here. But welcome all. I'm really glad that you're all here because today we're going to talk about digital twins. And the way that we have organized this panel is to talk about them in different scales because digital twins can come from the scale of the ER room to the scale of the building and to the scale of the environment. So I need to get my computer on the TV. I was ready, but not that. So while we connect, I would like to introduce my colleagues panelists. So we have Professor Dr. Azra Bihorac and Professor Dr. Christine Angellini and myself, Karla Saldana Ochoa. All right. So how we have organized today's presentation is that I will give a brief introduction of digital twins, and then we will present some of the examples that we've been doing in the different colleges around UF. So first I want to give this sense of what is a digital twin. So a digital twin are virtual representations of physical objects or systems that have the potential to revolutionize the way we interact with the physical world. Again, all right. So as I was saying, the digital twin has different scales, and these can come from the room, from the building, and from the environment. And these models are thought that they can revolutionize the way we interact with the physical world by facilitating more efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable environmental modeling, design, construction, simulation, and management. However, the development and implementation of digital twins is still in their early stages. Therefore, we need to establish industry and academic standards and best practices to ensure their effective and widespread use. But first, in order to talk about digital twins, I would like to talk about conventional tools that are used as virtual representations, which are building information models, or BIM, and geographic information systems, or GIS. So BIM models are digital representations of the physical and functional characteristics of the building or infrastructures. And GIS models represent geographic data of the characteristics of the environment. And these models can contain a vast array of data related to the environment or the building, including existing features, infrastructure, or design, construction, and operation management data. And they can be classified depending on the level of detail. So for example, if we look at the BIM or GIS model, level 100, this level is only showing basic geometric or geometric shape of the building or the environment. If we go to the BIM or GIS level of detail 200, here you're having more information such as locations, informations of the building elements, and so on. If you go to the BIM LOD 300, here we're having more information about specific parts of the model, which have to do with systems and equipment. And then 400, this deals with actually the small components that are part of the system. And the last one, this is about data that can be used to simulate the how this model will perform in real life. One thing that I would like to point out now is that in order to create a digital twin, these different levels of detail don't need to be accomplished. So it means that you don't have to have a BIM model level 500 to then become a digital twin. This is something that you need to agree depending on the scale of the project. So if you have a project that is about the room, probably you do need to have a level 500. But if it is a project about environment, probably the level that you need will be around a 300 level of detail. So in digital twin, similar to BIM, you have different types of categories. So you have the first one, which is called existence twin, and this is similar to what you will get with a BIM level of 300, which is about spatial and graphic representations. You have the status digital twin. Here you are able to get static parametric data, so you're using some data that can be generated synthetically. Then you go to the operational digital twin, which is about connecting real-time data or getting the sensor in the environment directly connected with the virtual model that you have. The next one is called the simulation digital twin, and this is when you start working with AI algorithms and historical data to make predictions and take decisions depending on the predictions of the events in historical data. And the last one, it's called cognitive digital twin. So as you see, this is what we call a digital twin continuum, which means that you are getting from one level to the next. And the last is what we call the cognitive digital twin, which means that the digital twin itself is able to make decisions guided by a human. So if we look more in detail, this is like, I hope you can see, but if you cannot, I will talk about this graphic. So here I try to bring that this digital twin continuum with the idea of the different BIM level of detail that I was mentioning before. So the BIM level of detail tells you about the detail of the geographic and data input that you have on your model, but the digital twin has specific characteristics that needs to be met. So as I said, this is a continuum which means that you are building upon the previous level of the digital twin. So what we're going to talk today are different examples that are ranging from these different categories, that are leveraging existing BIM models and GIS models in different scales. So I will welcome Azra to present. Do you need presenter?
Thank you. That was a great introduction. I learned so much. Now I know what I'm doing. Thank you, Karla. Well, I'm Azra Bihorac. I am not an architect, nor a designer, nor an artist, actually anti-artist, but I'm a physician intensivist and AI researcher. I'm a professor of medicine, surgery, and anesthesiology, and I co-lead Intelligent Critical Care Center for application of AI and immersive technology in healthcare. And I'm also Senior Associate Dean for Research at College of Medicine, and very much enjoying my role of leading AI research in our college. I'm going to touch up a little bit on one of our projects. My partner, Dr. Ben Schickel here, is our assistant professor in AI, one of our AI recruits. He works together with me and a team of others. We'll go over and talk a little bit about the digital twins. And as you can see here, Karla very nicely explained, the idea is to build a virtual replica of a physical object and then really embed the processes within that. And just to guide you, how did we get to this idea? So our research, among other things, has focused on creating something that we call intelligent intensive care units. So as a physician, I work in ICU every day. You know, I'm faced with an environment in which not everything is optimized necessarily to deliver the optimal care. So what does it mean? It means that the way how we designed, I personally believe, the way how we design physical space perhaps does not follow the pace of how we have evolved other technologies in medicine. So, you know, the buildings have remained the same with same windows, and then the furniture is kind of follow on that pace of not following the more, but our technology is becoming smaller, more agile. We have so many more tools that we need to apply at any given moment to patient in a very small physical environment. Where are you now, you know, combating the beds that resembled 1900? So as a provider, I have been in many situations in a very important moments when we, as example, run codes and life-saving procedures in a very small space that was not necessarily optimized for 15 people trying to do something in 1 minute of the time and save someone's life. So that was, among others, our idea, how we can maybe create environment that necessarily is not physical, but it's also virtual, where we can learn these processes, optimize them before we go in reality. And then we also thought about how we can emulate human experience when we deliver the care, when we create our algorithms. So intelligent ICU project is again joint project with engineering with my partner, Dr. Rashidi, who unfortunately could not be here, where we decided to emulate human experience and sensory input to our models. Most of our models in medicine use data that is collected or created during routine clinical care. So when you go to the doctors, you get lab tests, you get exam, and you have some imaging. But you also have a doctor that is a human that has 5 different senses. None of that is captured in electronic health records. So in our intelligent ICU project, we deploy multiple different types of sensors in the room, including video camera, thermal camera, some of them are more powerful than humans, audio, environmental sensor about noise and light, and we are even expanding to do really air quality and everything. So using these different inputs, we are actually trying to develop not only remote monitoring system that can always observe you, we call it like a baby monitor for adults in hospital, but also whether we can, some of these input data can be used to better understand trajectory of patient illness in real time. So now we wanted to go a step further and bring that intelligent ICU in a completely different virtual world. And this was the first step towards that. It's like, as you showed, that first little tiny twin, we need to really replicate environment where we are in. As you can see here, you can start developing a blueprint-based digital print, and then start developing other capabilities on top of that. So our team, so Ben here just summarized other examples of digital twin use, as a SpaceX has their own for their SpaceX Dragon capsule. We have some U.S. Armed Force developing digital twin of the space, some more of environmental twins that Christine perhaps will talk about in Australia, designing their entire sailing experience around that, or stadium. So these are perhaps easier to understand. So I gave you, I think, enough rationale about why I, as a physician, needed to felt the need for something like this. And I'll move forward. So how did we get there? So what we started first is in a conversation with NVIDIA, thinking about how can we start with a replica. So we had a team member from Design College who worked with Dr. Schickel and me. She unfortunately moved away. But then NVIDIA stepped in and really brought Mark III systems to help us to build one room. So that seems like a really but that one room took a long time to build. So we picked up one room in a East Tower. So University of Florida Health has 3 towers on Archer Road. You remember we have an Old Tower, a North Tower, that's our children's hospital, and then we have 2 new towers. One is South Tower, that's where the surgeries and cancer, surgical care, and that's the ER, and then we have the newest tower is East Tower. And I will tell you, this is interesting kind of trivia. So when we decided to bring real-time analytics in hospital 10 years ago in one of our projects, I don't think anyone in the US at that time was doing that, really. So we really had to work hard with our IT team that was pretty visionary, Gigi Lipori, our Chief Information Officer, who used our project, and we built a small private cloud to bring a very simple real-time data integration before surgery to develop this prediction model. It was really hard work. So even today, our hospitals are not completely wired yet for the real-time analytics. So as example, in the North Tower and South Tower, most of our devices, monitors, are not connected centrally to the Epic. So most of the data, when you are in ICU, we monitor you with a waveform, that's a high frequency data. Most of the data get thrown away. It's a huge amount of data. And, in an electronic health system, you only capture maybe like a very small proportion of the data. So when you want to integrate all of that, as of now, the only tower that is completely wired for that is this east tower. Look how sad thing, right? Although the south tower is a relatively new tower. So we are really moving fast on this, and we need to bring our big buildings to iPhone 15 level. We are all maybe iPhone 1 or 2. So a lot of things to be done. We started with one room in East Tower, the best tower we have. I think we have all the capabilities there. So the first phase was really creating physical reference. So some of our team members on a clinical coordinator that were actually doing clinical trials, they went in and captured a lot of our ICU rooms. You can see here, these are really beautiful rooms in the East Tower. From there, in a phase 2, this was all done by Mark Systems. We created virtual assets in an NVIDIA Omniverse. They look like a little toys to me that you can play with. Then in a phase 3, we integrated these assets in a virtual environment. And you can see here, slowly, you are starting to see the contour of what looks like a hospital room. Then to add high fidelity texture, now we start coloring. And it looks prettier and prettier, more real. And here it is in a phase 5. What we were actually interested in, how to integrate natural light into the room. One of our projects is focused on modulating light levels in the room, because we know that the amount of the light in the room is highly correlated and perhaps causal in some of our common disorders called delirium in ICU. A lot of our elder patients develop acute mental changes, acute brain dysfunction that is mainly functional, not structural. And we think that it's related to a lot of factors, medications, being in a stressful environment, but among other things also not being tuned to circadian rhythm of environment. We all live in a day and night. We are supposed to be sleeping in the night, in the dark, not feeding, and so on. So our healthcare delivery is not aligned around appropriate human rhythm, and that leads to acute dysfunctions that are actually, some of them can be correlated to bad outcomes even years after hospitalization. So here we are now working on our ability to really may change a light level of the light in the room, so we can then model our risk for delirium and find the optimal level of lights based on patient physical status. So here, this is supposed to be playing. Let me see. Might not be able to play. Unfortunately, this is a video. Do you know how to embed it? How to play it? Not the presentation, but here on a. It should be enabled.
We can go to.
It's okay. You have to trust me on this. But this look like maybe Mark has actually a simulation of this in the room, in a poster room. Okay, this is a great motivation for you to go to poster room and actually play with this, because you will be not only seeing the video, you will be inside of the video of that. So this is the idea that one day we will be inside of this environment, and you can clearly see how we can use that for training of our teams, but also maybe perhaps one day for the virtual patient experiences, where you as a patient will be able to be embedded in this environment from the moment of when you come for the surgery in your waiting room, and then what does it mean to be there, going through every aspect of your patient journey, and then also eventually for the logistics planning for our floors and deployment of the critical assets. So before I end, I will have to do a little announcement. We have that the College of Medicine is going to organize UF AI to Heal Hackathon in 2024. We have one last year. This is going to be January 27, 28 in Malakovsky Hall for the first time, the Coding for a Cure, Generative AI for the Health. So please spread the word. We hope to have all everyone, no, you don't have to be a student, everyone who is interested to use generative AI for a cure for the health will hopefully join us in the new space. And I apologize, I do have to leave to meet President Sass, but Ben will be here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azra. I would just like to mention that we will have a panel discussion after this. So we're trying to have 10 minutes lecture each. So we'll leave about 10 minutes for question later. So this was the scale of the room, and now we're shifting to the scale of the building, and this is my presentation today. All right, so the project that I'm going to talk today is titled Transforming Building Information Models into Digital Twins, and this is a project funded here at UF. We have 3 years funding, and this is a project with Dr. Shimei Anumba. He's the Dean of the College of Design, Construction, and Planning, myself, Dr. Raymond Isa from Construction Management, and Dr. Rivi Vasan, as well from construction management. So I led you with this idea of the digital twin continuum and the relationship between these GIS and BIM models. And what you need to keep in mind here is that every category of this digital twin continuum has capabilities that are building up every step on the way, and as well the features that you can add in order to create, let's say, the cognitive digital twin. So I want to talk about the infrastructure that a digital twin project will need. So first, we will need to understand what is the state of the art in digital twin processing. We have, indeed, as well as Azra, some partners that help us in the creation of this project, and then some platform recommendations that we have developed. So for you to understand digital twin as it is a digital environment, you will need to have a lot of hardware and software, and this has been divided into hardware that deals with sensors and actuators, middleware, which is about the data management plan and the IoT integration, and the software layer, which is a lot into visualization, simulation, and operational management. And here are some ideas of what visualization should look like. So this is about being able to represent a 3D environment precisely. So you need this data visualization and representation, and as well being able to plug data analysis algorithms inside of this virtual environment. Simulations, which deals with AI algorithms in order to read historical data to predict future events, and as well, how do you connect this with operational management? Now that you know what and how the built environment is performing, how can we really take care of it? So one of the things that I want to focus today is that a lot of the research is done into creating a status digital twin. If you remember the digital twin continuum, it tells you that that's the second level of complexity between the digital twin, and this is only getting the physical environment represented digitally, as much as detail as you need it. And here's when you start connecting data from sensors or getting data from generated or synthetic data on your model. So here what I'm showing you is the most important thing in this process is to identify the interface that you're going to use for the representation of this virtual environment. The partnerships that we have built along the way are Siemens. They are partnerships that are helping us with hardware, middleware, and software. So we have Siemens, Unreal, Autodesk, and NVIDIA. So if you see here, we try to describe what are the softwares that we are, softwares and hardwares that we are leveraging from our partners. And each of these software has specific features that I will just quickly show you. I'm going to be fast, but I can of course, send this presentation to anyone who wants to have it. So each of these softwares have characteristics. I'm going to focus on 2 softwares that we've been actively using. So for example, I'm going to talk about Siemens Ecodomus and NVIDIA Omniverse. So for Siemens Ecodomus, this was very helpful to link asset management and building life cycle management. And then in Omniverse, our plan is to leverage this real-time design and interaction that we can get with the platform, and as well design collaboration, because the idea is that a digital twin should not only be used by one person alone, this should be something that is shared, and everybody can have access and explore it simultaneously. So I want to show you some of the pilot studies that we've been doing during this project that span from creating digital avatars to explore the space, to create generative algorithms to partition space, and then give you a sense of what this will look in the future. And as I said, these are projects created by the PhD students within the group. So we have one PhD student here that is eating coffee. Hello, thank you for coming. We have Wei Chun Chen, Yasin Delabar, Deepak, Bala, Chris Han, and as I said, coffee. So the first project that I want to talk today is about how do we actually simulate interaction in the built environment. And this is a project that created a machine learning agent that is able to explore the space and is able to sense, which means that it's a reinforcement learning algorithm that is trained to behave like a human. And what it's doing actually is able to sense the environment. So it's like looking at the environment and makes decision about where to inhabit and what it needs to do and how it needs to do it. So imagine this in a greater scale. So here we are using this agent to design a place, but we can also use this agent to test ideas about the environment and about the building itself. Another example that we have is something we call the green plotter. So the previous work is done by Wei Chun Chang. He goes by Jimmy. He will be presented today afternoon, so if you have time at 2 p.m., we have a panel on AI in the built environment. As well as Yasin, he developed a generative algorithm that is able to partition a plot of land, preserving or minimizing the amount of carbon extracted from the ground. So if you look at this quick video, what you're doing is that you're really minimizing the amount of trees that needs to be cut in order to create a very optimal plot partition, which is a problem that we have in urban planning and urban design, because selecting roads and size of plots is always conflicting with the environment. All right, so here I'm going to just dive into the example of the building itself. So we have a pilot study that was conducted at the Heavener Hall, and this is a project that Coffee was very much involved. So here I'm just giving you an idea of this hardware, middleware, and software that we use. So first we had the BIM model, which is very important for us, regardless of the details. So we work here with a 300 LOD BIM model. We use this in a platform that is very good for visualization, which is called Unity. And this Unity was able, through a plugin, to connect to Azure Digital Twins. That platform allows us for working with operational management, and then some of the data was synthetically created and was plugged into the model. So if you look at this is the work done by Shadi Elias. Here you have an idea of what the BIM model looks like and what does it look in a digital twin platform. And what you're looking here is that this digital twin platform allows you to look at assets. So in the case of the building, assets are elements within rooms. So you can think of assets as rooms, or also elements within rooms, or parts within the system of the machinery. So that's like how much detail you can have. But here you can start really making analysis and understanding what's happening. And Coffee's main research was about to really be able to check every single asset within a system and see also connect information about the manufacturing, which means that you're going to be able to see whether you need to replace it or not, and how much is the lifespan of that element. So I am taking a lot of time, but these are the projects that we're going to be working. So I just give you a sense of the things that we can do, that we've been doing, that we've been thinking. So the plan or the funding that we got is to create a protocol of how to turn BIM models to digital twins from different buildings around the campus. And these are the 4 buildings that we've been working. So the first one that I just showed you is the Heavener Hall. This was used as a test study. But then we have 3 other buildings that are categorized in different, let's say they are in a different stage. So there are buildings that are new, that are going to be constructed, that are not here, that are the phase of the design. But we have buildings that are constructed, but they are going to be remodeled or repurposed. And there must be a different way of acting in these different approaches, because the same way that you do with a new building cannot be applied for one that is already existent. So the protocol is different. So the first building that is new to be constructed is the DCP Collaboratory. Another new building that is going to be constructed is the Disability Resource Center. And the one that is going to be remodeled and repurposed is the Counseling and Wellness Center. So these are the 3 projects that we're going to be working on. And our main objectives of the project, so because we are in the very beginning, we have objectives and aims. The moment, like, if I do this presentation in 3 years, probably we'll have more things to show. But as I said, the main idea is to create this protocol and to aid anyone who would like to create a digital twin of a building in campus to know what are the tools and what are the things that it needs to happen in order to create a digital twin and at the level that it needs to be created. One thing that I wanted to emphasize here is that we always see this relationship between the physical model and the cyber digital twin, not only when the asset exists, but when the asset is being imagined. So if you understand, if you see this graph that I have here, there is these bubbles at the beginning that is talking about feasibility, which is about the creation, idealization of the project itself. Still, that needs to be connected from the physical and the digital until you go to when the building is already there, that you're having the physical model being analyzed. I mean, the physical model already existing, and then you're able to test some ideas in the digital model that affects directly the physical one. So the idea of having this relationship almost from the beginning of the project allows you to test ideas at the beginning, and then as well check what could work and what is working based on the information that you have from the beginning. So as I said, this is a 3-year project. We are at year number 1. So the thing that we've done till now is leveraging and understanding how can we create a status digital twin, which is in the case of the Hefner Hall. But the idea at the end is to develop guidelines and to create 3 digital twins of different buildings around campus. Well, Eric is here, so he's a sponsor of this project, so thank you, Eric. And so, as I said, I will keep repeating what are the outcomes that we're planning to have. So one of the things that what we thought was really important is to create a comparison metrics between the different softwares that are out there, because there's so many, and based on the partnerships that we have, we don't know which one works for what. But if we're able to create protocols that leverage the abilities and capabilities of each of these softwares, depending on the question that you have, you're not neglecting or saying this one is better or not, but you're just saying, based on the question, your project, your scale, this is the path that you should follow. So this is one of the first things as well that we're going to be doing. And And another thing that is really important to emphasize right now is that one of the main problems that we have when we're trying to move from the status digital twin to an operational digital twin is the real-time data connection from existing sensors that we have on site. So this is the problem because the software used to visualize or to collect this data is not compatible to the softwares that we usually use to create models. So now we're trying to create this data management agreement with the people who are collecting facility management department to be able to have this direct connection with the digital model with existing data that is streamed live every day. So I leave you with this image. This is emphasizing that we are here in the status digital twin. We need some time to get to at least a simulation twin, which is one of, like, if we get there, I think this will be the end of the project. I would like to thank everyone that has sponsored this project, my colleagues. This is very exciting, and with that, I would like to say thank you. All right. So now we're moving to the scale of the environment. Do you need your notes?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
All
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Angellini. I'm a professor in College of Engineering here at University of Florida, and I'm going to be talking about a project that is just days old, I would say, and just a couple months in envisioning, which is called Florida's Digital Twin. We were very fortunate to get sponsorship for this project through President Sass's strategic initiative. So we are just literally found out about that just a few weeks ago. And this is a project that is really a cross-campus collaborative effort. So we have, this is going to be something that requires essentially an all-hands-on-deck approach from across the University of Florida campus, from College of Medicine to engineering to health, design, construction, and planning, journalism, and with a backbone in the research computing that we have here on campus. So let me tell you a little bit about the rationale for building something called Florida's Digital Twin and where we're imagining this going. And just know that this is our intention in standing this up is for this to be a collaboration ecosystem that harnesses the collective talent, data, and infrastructure that we have across this campus to deliver sort of data-driven and impactful guidance for decision-making here in the state. So just a little bit of rationale for why do we need something like Florida's Digital Twin. This is probably an audience where I don't need to make a whole lot of convincing arguments about the fact that our environment here in the state, but globally, is fundamentally changing. Our air and water temperatures are rising. Miami had, 85 days that were greater than 90 degrees in 1960. They had 133 last year. This year in the Florida Keys, the ocean temperatures reached 101 degrees, with major implications for the health of our coral reefs and nearshore systems. We're seeing fundamental changes in rainfall. It's becoming more intense and more variable. We've seen an increase in sort of the amount of rainfall that occurs during intensive storms, increased by 27% across our region. And just about everywhere in the state, we're seeing sea level rise, increasing the frequency and duration of sunny day flooding, and driving saltwater intrusion into our freshwater sources, which are vital for our drinking water, how we irrigate our fields, and the health of our natural systems as well. On top of these kind of longer term chronic changes, we're also facing increasingly extreme and frequent weather events. We're in the middle of Hurricane Alley, as you know, and those hurricanes that we're experiencing are becoming more frequent in terms of the frequency of major hurricanes that are Category 3 and above, as well as the location of those peak intensities are now becoming a bullseye on our state as well. So this is a context that has rippling effects on all of us. They're changing our health. They're affecting our sort of economy and our businesses. Every time we have a hurricane, there are businesses that shutter before those events, but also for a variable bouts of times afterwards. So it's affecting kind of the livelihoods of people and their ability to run their businesses. It's affecting the health of people in our state. In the case of Hurricane Ian, we had sort of exceptionally large amounts of sewage that seeped into Florida waterways, and there were significant implications of that for the health of Floridians. 65 cases of Vibrio and 11 deaths from this flesh-eating bacteria in Southwest Florida after Hurricane Ian alone. And then we're also seeing it basically on our properties and the communities that we live in, from the sort of levels of devastation that we see after Hurricane Ian to more subtle effects like, my backyard is washing out because I live along the coastline and I'm seeing that of all of my neighbors around me. What do I do about this? So I'd say that essentially this shift in environment, think about this from a personal perspective, is probably affecting some degree of your way of life, whether it's the amount of time you spend at the beach because there's red tide, or, it's really hot out and you're spending a lot more time inside than you used to. So developing reliable projections for how Florida's environmental changes and the sort of the frequency and severity of these events is going to it's going to affect our way of life, but it will really help if we can develop reliable projections to help our businesses develop more robust financial plans, empower our healthcare providers to invest more effectively in preventative measures because they know where we're going to see health outcomes associated with changing climate. But it also has the power to empower our local and state government in identifying and pursuing cost-efficient and impactful infrastructure investments, management actions, and policies. And the list goes on depending on kind of what sector you're in. But if we know what's going to happen in the future, and we can begin to kind of project around that, we're going to be a lot more cost-efficient and impactful in the decisions that we make. However, it is very difficult to make such reliable projections today between how does these environmental change ripple through and affect these different aspects of our way of life, for a couple of reasons. The data we need to sort of empower such reliable projections and the expertise we need to inform those projections are fragmented across geographies, organizations, agencies, and even here on campus, we have our disciplines kind of spread all over. We're not sort of working in a concerted and efficient way together, nor are we capitalizing on our data streams that we have in an efficient way to achieve such robust projections. I would say number two, the technology we need to deliver those kind of simulations and the what-if scenarios in the future that allow us to truly sort of simulate, optimize, and visualize decisions that depend on these kind of complexity of different sort of environmental, economic, social factors doesn't really exist. We kind of are hypothesizing how it might work, but it doesn't currently exist. And most importantly, those who are making the day-to-day decisions in the state that are going to affect our health, our property, our businesses, our communities, are not well connected to the expertise on campus for the most part. We do not have an open line of exchange the way that we want to deliver technology here or predictive guidance. Often what's happening is that the experts here on campus are producing outcomes that do not directly meet those decision maker needs. We have kind of communication breakdown. So this is kind of all the context and some of the motivation behind standing up Florida's digital twin. This is a technology platform that's going to fuse what we're calling Florida's data harmonization hub with a decision simulation and visualization system to deliver user-guided, AI-accelerated decision support to guide Florida's future as it deals with its future environment. So I'm going to break down the components of the digital twin. This is all very much in conceptual phase right now. We need to figure out the mechanics of how this technology and sort of collaboration platform works, but that's really sort of the goal over this next year with the strategic initiative. So first, talking about the kind of centerpiece of this technology platform has to do with the data that such simulations are going to sit upon. And what's really fortunate about where we sit here in the University of Florida is that we have faculty across this campus that are collecting, managing, curating some of the most vital data streams that we need to support such a data platform. So as an example, UF Health has a program called the One Florida Clinical Research Consortium that's collecting the electronic health records of I think 17 million Floridians now, I believe. It's on that order of magnitude, but we can track sort of in near real time the health outcomes of residents in our state. But we also have really powerful data sets across campus in design, construction, and planning that are about land use and opportunities for land conservation in the state, as well as affordable housing. And so we have the opportunity to integrate, if we build such a sort of a hub effectively and more powerfully capitalize on these data sets across campus. Sort of surrounding this now with, in the future, as we develop this platform, we have access to kind of data that's been integrated in terms of its spatial and temporal units, sort of compatible data, is this opportunity to sort of put it to work in a decision, simulation, and visualization space. So I'm just going to walk you through kind of this collaborative ecosystem that we're going to be working with experts on campus to kind of develop. And it really starts with user engagement, essentially connecting our experts on campus with the users who ultimately are going to need to use the digital twin. So it's engaging public and private partners, business leaders, community leaders to learn the science and decision support needs that they have to make basically, planning decisions for the future. We then need to identify drivers of change, essentially leveraging historical data to look at, what have been the relationships between environmental change and, say, health outcomes, so that we can make sort of data-driven, informed decisions or sort of informed projections about what may happen in the future. next step is basically optimizing decisions, sort of putting out on the table the potential management actions, infrastructure investments, policies that our decision makers are facing, and running all of those what-if scenarios in this physically informed environment to help support decisions. And then finally delivering a visualization system that is, in the form of, say Azra's or some of the beautiful images that Karla showed, in a way that users feel like they are empowered to see what the future may look like and make informed decisions that are really ultimately, closing the loop on directly meeting their needs, but are driven by a foundation of data and science as well. So this doesn't exist unless we had basically the amazing supercomputing power we have at the University of Florida, the long-term investments that have been made in harnessing and sort of wrangling data sets across campus that's provided by our research computing kind of backbone. But we also have this emerging opportunity through investments in sort of standing up Omniverse and making it more available for the university as this kind of simulation and collaboration platform. So we look forward to kind of harnessing that as we move forward. So I would say we have the kind of the power, but we also have the kind of the collaboration space emerging just very recently here to basically equip us to do this. So who might the users be? We want basically UF, our people, to use this platform as much as possible in order to accelerate collaboration and scientific discovery and kind of close the gap between our University of Florida faculty and users across the state that need our expertise and our data and such capabilities. We also see deep engagement with the business community, with community planners, the regional planning councils, for instance, that are sort of the heart and soul of a lot of kind of future planning here in the state of Florida. But also this platform as being a sort of a mechanism by which we work hand in hand with our local and our state agencies to really sort of put the data that they've invested a huge amount of time and energy and effort into collecting to use to support sort of proactive decision making. So why UF can build this better and faster than anyone. We've got the supercomputing power. We have the scientific expertise across campus. We have high resolution data and great partnerships as well, such as with NVIDIA, in order to sort of make this sort of vision a reality. So just to close, this doesn't happen with one unit on campus. This only happens if we capitalize on the expertise that we have across this campus. And it's sort of delivering a project like this that we need a place like UF that has such diverse expertise to kind of to harness and put it to use. So there's a variety of benefits for this in terms of demonstrating our university's value in delivering real world benefits to our state, accelerating scientific innovation, really sort of flexing our muscles as an AI powerhouse, sort of integrating data, and every part of this digital twin is going to rely on AI. And so this is a sort of a means to showcase that. And the list goes on in terms of, I think, what the sort of the outcomes are going to be. But we need to build it right, and we need to build it fast over the next year. So that'll be, really what my time and attention will go into, along with our project team. So thanks for your attention, and we don't have a whole lot of time for questions, but what I'll say is that I'm happy to connect with folks who are really sort of in the phase right now of getting inspired and learning what resources we can capitalize on across campus, so I welcome engagement. All right, thanks. David, are we kicked off the stage right now, or? Okay. All right, well, we're happy to take a few questions if you'd like.
So I'm curious, people have been running simulations of things like the environment, weather patterns, how materials act under stress. What distinguishes a digital twin from the classical way simulations are done?
Sorry for that. Well, I don't think they need to be contradictory, especially because they are complementary. I think the digital twin leverages simulations. And simulations, of course, can be done with different AI algorithms. So if we're thinking about including, and I'm going to refer to this digital twin continuum when we're saying digital twin simulation, it means that it's leveraging all the other steps that we have to have in order to use the data or historical data to predict and also to simulate what it could be. So I will say I will not compare them as either this or that, but I will say it's a complementary approach.
I would also add that one of the hallmarks of digital twin is that real-time communication stream, real-time monitoring. You get that feedback from the real world into the digital world that you can kind of incorporate into the simulations.
We have another question over here.
So in practical terms, could we use the digital twin technology to speed up the opening of the new Malachowski building? Well, semi-seriously.
Technology isn't there yet, I'm sorry.
Do we have one more question? Are we all right? Okay, we're all set? Oh, does that gentleman have one in the back? Wait. Is there a question? Anyone? All right. I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thanks to our panelists. That was fantastic. And thanks for helping our understanding of digital twins. So we're going to continue that theme and talk about the hardware and software resources for building digital twins. I know a lot of our faculty and students want to adopt this technology and learn more about it. This next